All right, we are live, fucking from Denver. We're not in Denver. I'm
Hmm.
not. I'm not. You're not in Denver.
Nope, not in Denver.
All right. So, just for my awareness, so this is gonna be the Gaze of the Two Minds from when you guys were traveling, or which one are you trying to do?
It should be the Gaze of the Two Minds from when we were on the boat.
Gaze of the Two
Uh,
Minds from when you're on the boat. Got it.
yes.
All right. Let me
Um,
let me just pull something up real quick.
because I should have 4 more days to get William this charge.
Yes. Got it.
Um, I've got some theories. I've got an assortment of different things I need to try, but
Yeah, I just gotta check my timeline real quick. Okay, so from when we're on the boat. Got it. All right, cool. You ready?
hell yeah.
Okay, so you are on the ship. People are going about their business. The Damien and Flint and Kira are training with the children. Um, and you find a dark space. You hunker down. You go into your sentry mode. Um, and begin to drift into that ethereal place. Um, and you kind of find yourself opening up into a space. Who are you looking through the eyes of?
William.
William. As the light comes into your eyes and you kind of take in your surroundings, you see that you are looking down at a table. It's a small circular table. Below the table is a dark red carpet. Um, on top of the table is a purple crystal with a green gas flowing up and down in it. As you're looking down on it, you see William's hands out kind of on either side of the crystal, not touching it, but on either side of it. And there is a voice that kind of fills your mind. It's a familiar voice. Um, just do a Discord roll for a history check.
21.
Okay. Um, this is the you remember this voice is Prime Admiral Carlinth. And you hear, so this was found. Do you have anything to say of it? Have you come to any conclusions? Um, William is silent in that moment, kind of looking at it, and you see his gaze kind of look up at the small man. Um, and as he looks
Just
up, you see that he's in a small room, very intimate setting with seems to be like an office. His peripheral vision, there's a desk off to the side. And his peripheral vision in the other direction. So his right, there's a desk. The left, there is a door. And behind the Prime Admiral, there is a bookshelf. Um, and it seems that they are at a small, like almost like a coffee table, with two elegant chairs. William is in a chair, and the Prime Admiral is in a chair. Um, William is in silence at this moment as he kind of looks from the crystal up at the Admiral and then back down at the crystal. Are you doing anything?
looking at because I'm looking straight through his eyes and
Yep.
sort of feeling what he's feeling. Are his hands trembling at all? Is there any like nervousness that he's trying to conceal from what's his face? Like,
Gaze
how
of
do
the
I
Two
read
Minds,
his
do you
face?
have any senses other than hearing and sight?
I'll be honest, been a long time since I looked up Gaze of the Two Minds, so let me make sure I'm correct. Gaze of the Two Minds, indications. Uh, yeah, I perceive through its senses.
That's what it says?
Um, yeah, it just says I perceive through their
Okay.
senses.
So you feel sweat kind of accumulating at his hairline and under his eyes. and you feel kind of a chill down the back of his spine, as he kind of he's again roll an insight check.
Oh shit. Let me just pull up the character sheet. Bookkeeper. Insight is insight plus 5. 14.
Again, you're gathering he's incredibly fucking nervous, almost to the point where fight or flight is kicking in. He's either going like you've got a couple seconds to react here. He's either going to lie or say no. Is what you're gathering.
Abot using sending immediately messages directly into his mind.
Hello, William. I have answers. Tell him that it is a result of the chemical composition found deep within the mines. It is something that you discovered while working on the works.
And so as you that kind of fills, you see like that happens. You speak into his mind. His left hand, his fist kind of clenches for a second, squeezes really tight. There's a moment, and then he regurgitates exactly what you said. It's a chemical reaction to the a mixture between the geology found in Bulwark that Kezin uncovered in these crystals, and that of the sulfurs in the mines and the stench that exudes from the Bleeding Dunes. It seems that when the two come together, the crystals themselves, the chemical composition is actually altered. We found something similar during our experiments with the blood of the Hanu orcs. And that kind of falls on the admiral for a moment, and he kind of looks at William, and then looks back at the crystal and grabs the crystal and kind of holds it in his hand. And so, what does this mean for our use of the crystals in the experiments of the commander? And kind of looks down the past commander list, as well as Jameis and the others trying to harness these powers. What's the implication of what's going on here?
Abot sends him another sending.
Okay.
To show, ask for a corpse and a chisel, then release crystal in said corpse.
Kind of pauses for a moment. I'll need a corpse and a means to break this crystal open. We found that the gases can transfer from inorganic material to organic material. Interesting, the Prime Admiral says. He kind of leans forward. So a chemical weapon? Of sorts. And you see him kind of struggling for a moment. The exact result of the transfer is still under investigation, but if I'm given some cadavers, I could find a use. You see the Prime Admiral kind of lean back in his chair. And so how do we harvest more of the gas if we determine that there is a use for it? William, again, you're getting that he's getting nervous. He doesn't have the answer to this question.
Abot is going to struggle with an awakened mind to try to see if he can. I mean, it's definitely not 100% Abot knows this, but he's going to struggle to just try to communicate ideas and thoughts, the most basal form of his awakened mind, through Gaze of the Two Minds. Um, he's just Abot's only thinking one thought and concept, patience, and he's trying to communicate that as far across as he can.
Okay. Roll another insight check. So after William kind of contemplating the Prime Admiral's words, and as you kind of are trying to relay this idea, William speaks up and he says, "I'm not exactly sure just yet on how the gas manifests into the crystals, but that's the next part of the research. And as soon as we have answers, I'll make sure that you are in lockstep with me as we uncover the truth." And so you kind of inference that what you were trying to relay didn't really get across, but he came up with something. Prime Admiral kind of takes his knuckles and knocks him on the table. "You know the situation, William. You know what's at stake if I don't have answers and you don't make yourself useful." And he kind of gets up and walks right out of the room. As that happens, William, you feel like the tension release. He unclenches his left fist and he kind of leans over the table. You see sweat drip off of his forehead onto the table right in front of that crystal that's sitting there. Big deep breath as the tension releases, and both hands kind of palms spread, fingers spread out, and he's kind of putting his body weight on the table. Takes the two hands come up to his head, kind of block your vision for a moment as he rubs his forehead, leans back in the chair, and just sits there for a moment. You doing anything, or you're just watching?
Abot's out of sending, so Abot is just watching.
Okay. About 5 minutes pass. He's still sitting there. His hands move from his forehead to his mouth, doing that thing that he keeps doing, where like a tongue goes in a cheek. Bites his lip, kind of strokes his chin a few times, and he sits there for about 25 minutes. You can feel the sweat, and he keeps on wiping the sweat off his forehead. After about 30 minutes, he gets up, walks out the room. You see that he's in a long hallway. He takes a left out the door, walks down a flight of stairs into a large lobby. Out the door into like a yarded area. Out a gate, talks to a guard, exchanges his name, a few other things, and then walks out into what you recognize as Shalinsta. As he kind of turns back and looks at the place, this was another room in the Prime Library. And you recognize now that you're putting it all together, you recognize all this space from the times he's gone to the library before as you've watched him. Makes his way down over the next 20 minutes or so, and Gaze of the Two Minds lasts for an hour, correct?
No, I can keep it up forever.
Okay.
I get my spell slots back after an hour.
Okay. He's walking for a while, and you see that he's making his way home. Are you continuing to watch?
Yes.
Okay. Another 20 minutes of walking passes, so at this point you have your spell slots back. He makes his way through the different alleys, past the markets that you've seen him frequent, as you've watched him before, into his home, and he lays down on his bed and he's just staring up at the ceiling. About 15 more minutes pass of him just laying there, his hands folded on his chest, just seems to be resting and relaxing. You hear Sumara's voice um, saying to him, there's food on the table, and he just kind of like yelling through the home, and he just lies there. Um, doesn't respond, doesn't get up. He's still just lying there. He lays there for about another 5 minutes or so. Are you doing anything, or you just continue to watch?
Abot's just continuing to watch. He wants
Okay.
to get Samara and him in the same room before he makes another action.
Okay. So he's laying there for about another 5 minutes. You hear her yell again. Um, Still doesn't move. Lays there about another 5 minutes. Then she comes. You hear her her footsteps coming up the stairs. Um, you hear her voice kind of fill the space, and you hear, "Are you ignoring me? What? Why?" And this is in Elvish. Um, what happened? What happened with the Admiral? Things could have gone really bad during that meeting. The golem spoke into my mind, and I was lucky that he did. I froze up. I'm 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 out of my breath here, Samara. I I fear for us. I truly do. His classic big deep breath filling his lungs. I think we should just run.
Abot sends a sending, but not to William, straight to Samara.
Okay.
Hello, this is Abot. It is important that you tell William to relax. He has just succeeded. The hardest point is past us now.
As you're looking through William's eyes, and they're kind of, his head has turned. He's still laying on the bed, but his head has turned. You see, as you say that, Samara's like eyes go wide, and she just is in fucking fear. As your voice fills her mind, and you're watching that secondhand from William, and just again her long blonde hair tied back in a ponytail. She's wearing these silk like pajamas. As you kind of walk, you see that it's about, and as you know from before you went into the Gaze of Two Minds, it's about mid morning. Um, just fear comes over her face. Her lips and her jaw kind of drop and part, and her eyes, they're this brownish, almost like in the glisten of the sun through the window, almost like yellow in that moment as her eyes go wide. Um, William almost immediately knows what's happening and says, "He whispers to you too. We could run from. We can run from the Admiral, but we can't run from that creature. What did it say to you?" And again in Elvish, she kind of kneels down, trying to compose herself as you're watching her face through William's eyes. Puts a hand on William's knee, and she's silent for a moment. And she doesn't make it clear whether these are her words or yours. Um, the worst is past us. We're making headway. We need to stay strong. We can do this. And as you're kind of sensing through William, you feel her fingers kind of squeeze his knee, and you feel like intense pressure as she squeezes very hard on his knee. And they're in direct locked eye contact. Roll an insight check.
11.
It's unclear to you, and you kind of get this. It almost feels like they don't have a full understanding of what your actual presence is, and what the capacity of that presence is. So it's unclear whether, the things that they're doing, right? Squeezing the knee, are they aware that you can feel that? Are they aware that you can see through their eyes to the extent that you can and feel what they feel and sense what they sense? Um, it's unclear to them, or it's unclear to you what level of awareness they have of your capability.
Abot is going to send another sending, this time to William. William, you have succeeded greatly. I wish you would relax. I will not watch you tonight. Get some rest. And he's going to continue to watch him for the rest of the night.
Um, so what ends up happening? So it's mid morning now. The day is he gets up. So as you see that his eyes close, he gets up, um, and then they have breakfast, and they go about their day. A lot of they go around town. They kind of go shopping. As you're kind of inferencing on the way the market is working and your time in Shalinsta, it's definitely a weekend. A lot of the shops are closed. They're kind of just having a day to themselves, and you're kind of just watching.
What time
Nothing.
is it, roughly?
By this point, it's probably like midday.
For 30 minutes during that day, Abot's going to do something else. Abot's instead going to peer into, I put it in PMs, let me make sure. He's going to look into, Shriek.
At what time
The
of
one
day?
that was,
Like
midday.
midday?
Just
Okay.
for 20 minutes, he's going to gauge the surroundings to see if it's like a weird secret meeting type deal, or if he's just with his family.
Okay, so you're doing this about midday.
Yes.
Okay. Um, so yeah, there's a moment where you're watching William, and they are that Apple stand you see him frequent. Him and Sumara and the guy that owns the Apple stand are kind of just having just mundane conversation. It seems like he's trying to just have a sense of normality. Um, and you switch your vision to Shairik. And as you come into his view, he's sitting at a table, and he's writing a letter. Um, and his eyes are focused on what he's currently writing. And what he writes is, it seems to be at the end of this letter. Roll a perception check to see if you can kind of like use his peripheral vision to read the upwards end of the letter. But the part that he's writing right now, um,
8.
the part that he's writing right now says, "And know that I always love you, and if, um, and just because I'm gone, or just because I am not present, does not mean that I am gone." Um,
Oh shit.
and then he signs it his name, and he folds the letter, and then slides it to the center of the table, and he gets up. Are you continuing to watch him?
Yes, actually. He's gonna watch for another 15 minutes.
Okay. So from there, he walks out of the door of his home and walks out into the streets of Shalinsta. He walks down alley after alley. Um, are you looking for anything during his walk? Like anything?
Landmarks, road names. He's trying to
Okay,
sort of
roll a
remember
perception
the
check.
path he's been. Natural 1 +2 is the
Yeah, so you're not really familiar with the parts of town that he is in. and he makes his way down these different streets, down these different alleys, and you're not able, just because of the way his eyes are looking. He's looking at different people. He's looking at the ground. You're not able to get a good view of any discernible landmarks or street names. And you see him eventually. He's kind of looking at the ground, and he kind of walks. And out of the peripheral view, you see like he's approaching a building. He swings the door open, and it seems to be some kind of tavern.
Did it
A
have
few
name
different.
at the top?
He didn't even look, like the name of the
Okay.
tavern didn't even come into your view. He pushes the door open, and there's different patrons around. Nobody seems to mind him. He walks straight into the back, doesn't even talk to anyone, and then down a flight of stairs. Um, as he walks down, you hear the creaking of old wooden steps with each step, and you can feel that he's kind of clenching, white knuckling the shit out of the railing as he makes his way down. As he comes into the space, it's a dimly lit room. There's one Kezin crystal kind of hanging from the ceiling, kind of illuminating the space in this purple light. He kind of turns his head, and there's two men down there, standing at a table. He stands where he is, and he's at this door, and he says, I'm here. One of the men kind of holds up his hand. He's like, "You made it. Tonight's the night. You don't need to explain it. We don't need to talk about it. Come here, understand the plan, and we'll meet again tonight." You feel Shyrik's head nod as he approaches the table and gets closer to the two men. Are you gonna keep listening?
Oh yeah, definitely.
He gets closer, and you see that there's actually a blueprint, a layout of some kind of large building. They go on to discuss the layout of the building. There's no markings or no talk about what this building actually is. They talk about they're going to basically go in through the gate. He said there's talk about we'll do whatever we have to do with the guards at the gate. We'll make it through the yard, make our way in through the front door, up the staircase. It should be the hall, and they say it this way: it should be the hallway on the right once we're up the staircase. Make our way down, find the room, find it, take it, and make our way out as quickly and quietly as possible. If you're gonna back out, do it now. The two other men are silent. Shyrik and the other man are silent. After what seems to be like kind of the leader of this meeting explains all this. You feel Shyrik's head nod again. He walks out of the. He walks back up the stairs. The two other men stay down there. He leaves the tavern. Leaves the basement, goes in the tavern. He sits there and proceeds to start drinking. You're just gonna watch him drink?
Abot's going to switch back over to William.
Okay. So that whole process, all of that takes about an hour. That you're not paying attention to William. You jump back to William. Him and Samara are now sitting at a table, like kind of on the curb. Almost picture like if you were like in Italy and you're kind of like at a patio side, like a restaurant with a patio, and you're kind of sitting there like on the edge of the street, and there's just people walking around, and they're kind of sitting there eating a meal. She's having some kind of salad, looks to be like tomatoes and some olives in it. He's having some kind of it almost seems to be like a sausage over like a bed of rice. And they're kind of just having, again, mundane conversation about the children, about the weather. It seems like they're just trying to insert anything they can to have just calm.
Hmm. Abot's going to then switch over very quickly to just see their surroundings. Bombera.
Okay.
Uh,
Um, so you see, as you switch to Bombera, he is walking through the market. There's a man on either side of him. As he looks to the left, you see the man. He's got a brown, um, very tight beard with like hints of gray throughout it, and it's kind of like scraggly. Um, the man has no real discernible, like no real features on his face that stand out. He's a pretty plain looking dude. Um, he looks to his right. Another guy on his right, fucking identical. Um, these two dudes are either identical twins, or one's like a fucking stunt double for the other. Identical. Um, you hear Bombera's voice as he kind of kind of leans his head one way and then leans his head the other. Do you understand your task? Do you understand what Cyril is asking you to do? The two men speak up kind of at the same time, in unison. We understand. We got it. He says, good. Find the men of Solace. Join their ranks. Use these, and he hands a scroll to either one of them simultaneously. Communicate back to me directly. And inform me what their mission and plan is. The two men take the scrolls and then turn back and walk in the opposite direction. Bombera keeps walking straight amongst the chaos of the market.
Apologies. Someone just went in the room. Avot is going to send a sending to Bombera. Hello, Bombera. Status report.
Did you just cut out?
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, it was hello, Bombera. Status report, please. And that's it. That's all I said.
Status report, please. Is that you keep on cutting out whenever you talk in character, like about the character, but not
yeah.
any other time?
Yes, exactly. I left and reconnected. Maybe that's better.
Okay. He responds, all is well. Yunta investigates crystals. Cyril thinks you're dead. Continuing on with other affairs.
Abot sends one more sending. Hopefully that stays. We are heading to market. Also, I may know of Solus. Soon to tell.
No response.
Looking at him, is he just still walking the same direction with the
So he's
pace?
walking through the market. Roll a perception check.
16?
Based on the mountainsides, the mountainside where the Temple of Savras is, and that being on his left, you can inference that he is moving south. You can't tell exactly where in the market he is, though.
Do I know where, like roughly where in the market Cyril's tent is?
Cyril's tent is is like maybe a couple hours north of the center. can't tell where he is in relation to that.
Okay. Abot's just going to thwip his vision very quickly over to Yunta.
As you look at Yunta, he's at a long table. There's like different tools and gadgets, and like alchemical sets. His vision is the table is very wide and very long, and his vision, you can't really see anything other than this table and all the shit all over it, and it's just a mess. You see his big meaty elephant hands kind of tinkering. There in front of him, there is a yellow crystal with the green gas in it. It is in a pair of vices. There's a chisel in one hand of his, a hammer in the other. His trunk is grabbing a piece of paper and sliding it across the table next to him. The piece of paper has just notes scribbled all over it. Roll a perception check.
6.
You're not able to tell exactly what it says. He takes the chisel and kind of hits it a couple times, lightly, not very lightly, or not very hard. Then kind of grabs it, takes it out of the vice. You feel his hand reach down below the table beside him, grab something heavy, and he lifts it up. It is a black metal war axe that he slams onto the table, just on top of all the other shit, just like breaking a vial and everything. Like, he doesn't even give a fuck. He takes the crystal and he spins the axe around, and he starts kind of like trying to jam it into the bottom, and he's wiggling it around, and he's like keeps like grunting. There's a couple as he's like trying to force this shit in. After you hear as he slots in, and he goes, and then he takes it and he turns it 90 degrees, as you've seen Flint do before when he used the purple crystal. And as that happens, there's a spark of like fire and electricity and all of these different, and it explodes. His hand flies off of the crystal. The crystal flies across the room. You feel this immense pain in his hand as it's kicked back. Everything goes black.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Just looking at his mind, is it very clear that there's still a mind
It is
there,
not
or?
the nothingness that you've experienced
All right.
before, but everything is darkness. You have no senses.
Okay. Abot is instead going to flip back to William one more time, just to touch base, see what
Okay.
he's doing.
So those two interactions with Bonbera and Yunta, probably a total of like 30 to an hour. This point, Sumara and William are walking back. You can recognize by the different streets and everything back to their home. They're not very far. It seems that they went somewhere very close. Are you watching them? They're actually walking in silence at this point.
What roughly what direction are they heading? Like, or actually,
You
I
can't-
guess
you-
I wouldn't know that.
You don't have a sense of direction, but you do recognize. You've been watching him a lot, and you do recognize some of the different buildings. And you remember that his apartment is right outside, right off of the edge of one of those large squares with a statue of Carlinth in it. And it seems that he's walking through that square right now. He just turned off of a street into that square, and it looks like you could see his apartment from here.
Looking at just a quick backtrack. When I was looking at the blueprint of the building that the Men of Solus were looking to raid, I know that there wasn't a specific building name or a building that I recognized, but was it the same building blueprint as the previous blueprint of the Prime Library I'd looked
No,
at?
very different.
Okay.
This actually the layout of it was not. It didn't seem like an industrial building as much as maybe a residential building.
Is it? What roughly what time would it be? Like, is it approaching sundown?
This
at
is
all,
this
or
is
it-
probably the equivalent of like a 3 or 4 o'clock at this point.
Okay. So I still have about 1 to 2 more hours, depending. So Avot's going to gaze at the two minds. Finally, the final person, Phalar, who the last I saw him was just stumbling through the street, and I'm curious if he's still doing that, if that's just him
So you reach
being
out for Phalar, and that familiar uh, feeling of nothingness fills you. And as you kind of linger in that, you start to feel it getting stronger, and that nothingness kind of starting to consume you. Do you stay or do you?
Avot immediately leaves.
Okay. And as you pull yourself out of it, you can feel almost like a breath of fresh air as you pull yourself from that nothingness. And you could feel that your
Oh,
mind was being pulled into it as it was once before. Um,
well, rip in peace. Abot is instead going to watch William for another hour and a half, and then he will switch back to Shriek. Just watching Shriek to see what the raid is going to be like. Um,
okay. So you watch William. They get home. They move up. It seems to be like a living area. They sit on the couch. They both pull out two books. Sumara's kind of lying with her head in his lap as he reads one book and she reads another. Um, After about like 30 minutes of that, you can feel that it's starting to get like intimate between them, like physically. Do you watch this or do you move on?
Abot just well, how long has it been?
That was like it took them like 15 minutes to get home, or maybe like 5 minutes to get home from when you flipped back, and then like they sit there reading for about 30 minutes before they start to escalate.
Might as well. Abot's going to shift over to Shriek. And just see what he's doing instead of watching them get it on.
Yeah. So so you switch back to Sharik, and he's still sitting in that bar. Um, you notice a roll perception check actually.
God. Abot the blind robot. Holy shit, I rolled a 19. 21.
Okay. Um, you immediately notice that there's two things in front of him. There's a glass of water, about half empty, and there is a beer that maybe has like 8 sips out of it. Barely touched it. Based on the coloring of it, based on the lack of carbonation, this is the same beer that he ordered when you stopped. Basically, when you stopped watching him like 3 hours ago. He's taken like
Oh,
8 sips of it. He hasn't even been drinking it. He's just been sitting there sipping water, kind of sitting. Um, he sits there for about another 30 minutes, finishes the glass of water, takes 2 sips of that stale beer, um, and as he looks up, the other two men come up. It's been about an hour he's been sitting there at this point, but when they come up, do you watch?
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Okay. Um, they get up. He doesn't pay for anything. They leave the bar. Um, they don't interact with anyone else. They walk down a few different blocks. Um, Roll perception check.
16?
As they round a corner, um, you catch out of the peripheral vision. Um, they go 2 blocks, and you catch out of the peripheral vision street sign Perry Street. Um, they go down a few more until they reach a stable. They grab 2 horses. Shairik and one of the men climb on one, the other one climbs on another. and they begin to run through the city, down main roads. After about another hour, the sun set during that travel, and dusk falls. The men stop riding around one of the large squares that are in the city. And this part of the city that you have not been to, and kind of um, the tight packed apartments give way to almost like, it almost feels more like a suburbia, where the houses are standalone, and it's all grass except dirt roads between these different homes. Um, the men kind of take their horses and walk slowly down these dirt roads, weaving between the homes. Um, you hear one of the men turn to the other. The man leading the way on his own horse turns to the others and he's like, "We'll leave the horses here. We'll take it by foot." They take the horses and they tie them two ropes to a tree, between two homes, and just off of this dirt road. They make their way along the road until a large home in a gated yard fills their view.
Is this a home that I?
Say that again?
Is this a home that I recognize?
No, you've never seen this.
Hmm.
It's a very large home, 2 stories, and there's a gatehouse on either side of the entrance to the gate. The man in lead says, "Sharik, wait here. Call them with me. You're on the right, I'm on the left." Sharik kind of, you can feel that he's just nervous and his hands are getting getting sweaty. You can feel sweat starting to drip down from his forehead, as he reaches into his back pocket and takes a mask, and stretches it down over his head like a ski mask. And as you kind of watch the other two kind of run into the darkness towards the gatehouses, they do the same. Roll perception check.
Natural 20 plus 2.
As the man on the left is kind of like in this crouched run, you see a glint as he pulls something from his pocket, off of the moonlight. He just pulls a dagger out of his pocket. You watch as Shairi kind of backs off under the shadow of a tree, beside a home, kind of just out of view of any of the windows of the homes around him. He's very conscious about where he's standing. You see the man on the left crouch underneath the window of the gatehouse, a very small, maybe 5x5 building with a man standing in it, kind of looking each different way, and he's crouched under the window, and he kind of peeks out around the corner, looking at the other man on the right, who's also crouched under the window. You see him go with one finger, 1, 2, 3. Simultaneously, the two men stand up, grab the men, jab daggers into their necks, and then pull them out of the gatehouse, laying them on the ground, covering their mouths, and holding them down. As they're holding them, the man on the left waves to Sharik, and you see Sharik like just panically kind of like do that same crouch run and scatter over, climb up into the gatehouse, and begin pulling on a rope as the gates swing open. The 3 men simultaneously, Sharik jumps out of the window of the gatehouse and they run in through the gates into this large yard. There are finely trimmed hedges all around the yard. Everything is very pristine. The grass is short, low, and perfectly green. Whoever lives here is very wealthy. Um, the men scurry up a porch and to a front door. Um, the man who's been in the lead, like almost like clockwork, pulls out this large kit and begins picking the lock. Sharik kind of pins himself up against the wall. His breath is very heavy. Are you sure about this? Yes. Shh. We've come this far. If you want to go, just go. Otherwise, shut up. I, 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 I just. Click, click. Shut up. Shut up. Shh. As he pushes the door open. Let's go. And the three men scurry into the room and then slowly shut the door behind them. Roll a perception check, please.
Holy shit, I'm rolling like a god. 19.
As the space fills your view, the floor is like a marble granite type stone. In the center of this large foyer, maybe 20 by 20, is a circular carpet, red, and in the middle of it, a large black trident. Off to the right, as Sherry kind of pins himself against the door that was just shut behind him, and he's taking in the space. Shh! Shut up! Shut up! Stop fucking breathing like that. He looks to the right, and there is a large glass case. In it, a suit of armor. Roll an intelligence check, please.
A large black case in it.
A large glass case.
Oh.
In it, it's a see-through case, but there's a suit of armor. So it's about 5 to 6 feet high. There's a pedestal, and then in it is a suit of armor.
I rolled a 9. That's just flat intelligence, right?
This is just flat intelligence. This is It is definitely Shalinstian military by the colors. High ranking, not sure what the actual rank is. Beside it are a bunch of plaques and awards, certificates, medals on the wall, kind of all draping along the wall. You said you rolled a 19 on that perception check?
A 9.
That is the intelligence check on the perception.
On the perception, a 19.
Yeah. You see that in the dim lighting, you can just make out the last name. You can't get the first name or the rank, but you catch the last name, Delvis.
Is it just Delvis?
Yep.
Wonderful.
You catch the last name, Delvis. The man, like, as he's taking all this is how, you're gathering all this information in like a split second, right? As he walks in, another man tells him to shh, and he's trying to slow his breathing down. Sweat just dripping off of him, like you can almost. He's so his senses are so heightened, and there's so much adrenaline. It's almost like you can hear the drops of sweat hitting the floor. The man that's been leading the way says, "Come on, upstairs." The three of them scurry up the stairs, which is like a large half spiral staircase. And then around the corner, into like a balcony that looks over that foyer. As they reach that, you hear two voices. One female, one male, speaking Elvish. The woman says, "But all in all, it's been a good day. I just, it's just very hard sometimes." And the man says, "I understand, but that's what it comes with. This is what you signed up for. This is just what it is." And as this conversation is going on, the voices are trailing off as you feel Sharik and you see the other two kind of pin their bodies up against the wall, as one of them peeks around the corner. And holds up a hand, basically holding everybody back, as these two voices trail down the hallway away. The man kind of waves with his hands, says, very quietly, very quietly. And again, very slowly, they're creeping down this long hallway as the voices trail back. And you see Sharik look up as two figures are walking away down this very long hallway. First, they go to the first room. They push it open. It seems to be a small library of sorts as they look into the room. He shakes his head no. They move to the other side of the hallway and push another door open. Look in. It seems to be kind of a master bedroom. No. Continue on. Another one seems to be some kind of lounge, and it has a thick smell of smoke. It must be like a smoking room or a cigar room. No. Continue down. He pushes the door open really quietly. A slight creak. Looks in. Roll a insight check.
That's a 10.
You seems to be a nursery. The man nods. They slowly creep into the room. There's toys, stuffed toys, scattered everywhere. And in the middle of the room, a crib. You can feel the sweat dripping down Sharik's body, his legs and his hands beginning to tremble. The man who's been holding that dagger wipes it on his leg as he approaches the crib. You feel and hear a presence in the room, and you hear this very soft as all three men are basically holding their breath. The two men approach the crib. Shairi comes up behind, looking over their shoulders. You look down, and there's an infant in the crib. The man sheaths the dagger, looking down at the child. A small, elvish baby. Hey there, pretty girl. Uncle Oliver here is just going to take you on a little adventure. Don't you worry. As he reaches his hands in and grabs the baby. And for a moment, the baby stirs and then begins to, make a noise, and he takes one hand and slaps it over the baby's. It's okay. It's okay. Just kind of covering the baby's mouth. He looks at Shairik and nods very slowly as the three men begin to creep out of the room. The third man has the dagger still in hand, and he peeks around the corner, down the hallway, and back the other way. And the three men proceed to creep back out the way they came, very slowly, being very careful not to make any more noise or let this baby make any noise. They creep out of the room, down the hallway, down the stairs, back through the foyer, through the yard, through the gate with the two dead bodies bleeding out all over the sidewalk. They pick up the pace, hurriedly rushing down the road, away from the home. Faster, faster, until they reach the horses, climb atop them, and then begin running off into the night.
Holy shit. I just want to send them a sending to congratulate them. What a bunch of fucking G's.
You continue watching?
Yeah, roughly what time would you say it is? Right?
That whole endeavor probably took 3 hours. They were moving so slow.
Just very quickly, not even for 5 minutes, he's whipping his vision back over to William. Is William asleep at this point?
As you are go into William's mind, darkness. William is asleep.
Flipping right back to Shriek. He's watching him.
So they're riding incredibly fast through the city. They run through. You recognize some of these roads, but again, you're not able to catch the street signs. They ride the horses straight back to that stable. Um, they run down the street, baby still in hand. Go back to that tavern. Oliver, the man that announced himself as Oliver, kicks in the door. They run through the tavern that is now empty, and they run down into that basement. They take the baby and they put it on the table right on top of that blueprint that's still sitting there.
Apologies. When they were moving in, running towards the tavern, did I catch a name this time?
No.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? Roll me a perception check.
Okay, give me 1 second. 20 plus 2. 19.
So as they're running, Shairik is so panicked. You don't catch the full name. You catch Stall.
Okay.
They set the baby down. Shairik is, oh my fucking god! You can feel his heart pounding in his chest. Shh, do not wake this fucking kid up. Do not fucking wake him up. The other man speaks up. Hey, this is the man that announced himself as Oliver. First of all, it's a girl. Second of all, we hold on to the child. They'll find her missing in the morning. We wait 3 days. Then we announce that we want ransom. We make our demands. We announce not who we are. We promise the baby will be returned unharmed. Making direct eye contact with Shairik. In the meantime, we talk to the other men. We have everything in place. All we need is for Carlinth to have Delvis step down. That's all we need. And then everything is set. You continue to watch?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The man Oliver comes up, takes a hand, and puts it on each of the men. Now go home, get some sleep, kiss your wife, kiss your kids. I'll see you in 3 days. And he picks up the baby and he walks out. Shairik stands there looking at the other man. He says, this is a lot. I used to serve. We all did. We all served. We kidnapped a child. Yeah. Sometimes drastic change takes drastic measures. Oliver's got a good head for this. The man smiles. He's a politician. The guy kind of double taps on his shoulder and he walks up the basement and leaves Shairik there. You still watching?
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, he's watching to see where he... And if while he's heading out, if he can catch another street name where this tavern is.
Okay. He then leaves the tavern, begins walking through the streets. Roll perception check.
14.
Just checking my notes real quick. He walks about another block, and at the end of the street, you do catch a street name, Farola.
How
F
do I
A
spell that?
R O L A. He walks for about an hour, um, until you find him reaching a very very small apartment in kind of a slummy area of the city. He goes inside. Um, you see as he walks in the front door, he looks to the left. There's that table that he was sitting at before. He walks over it, takes that note that you saw him writing, grabs it, crumples it up, and throws it in the trash. Um, Walks over to the other side of the room. This is seems to be a one like a studio apartment essentially. Walks to the other side of the room where there's a bed. There's a woman facing away. Seems to be asleep. He climbs into bed. Um, Darkness.
Hmm. Holy shit. Alright, can we take a 5-minute break?
I mean, yeah. I mean, are you gonna continue peeping?
Not on Sharik. He's going to wait till the end of the night. But there is other stuff that I want to do in the subsequent days, because this was only one day, right?
Yeah.
Alright,
I
yeah.
mean, what? Just actually, before we go on break, just are you looking at the next few days of the trip?
Yes, he's gonna be looking
Um,
through. I mean,
I
lessons
could
all.
summarize this in 5 minutes because nothing else
Oh,
really eventful happens.
oh,
Um,
wonderful. He's going to look through William's eyes, tell him to return to the Prime Library, and read more books.
okay.
Because we need more information.
Okay, so I can type out what books, like you tell me what kind of books you're looking for, and I can tell you what those are. We do that separately.
All right,
Um,
wonderful.
as far as Yunta, eventually you would see, like 2 days later, he would wake up. Bonbero would just be meeting with different folks, not talking about anything that really catches your attention, not anything that really matters, just different, collecting money from different people, as well as setting people up on similar tasks, but nothing that necessarily has to do with the Shalincians. Maybe to go and like rough somebody up at the market, or just kind of doing market management. It seems like, um, and then Shairik would go the next 2 days with basically just staying home, staying inside.
Okay. Oh, by the end of the third day, what happens? Because how long were we on the boat?
How long were you on the boat?
Yeah, wasn't
It was
it
5 days.
5 days? So I still have more time. Um, so by the end of the 3 days, I want to see what Shairik does. If he returns to the Men of Solace, if he groups up, I want to see the outcome of this baby ransoming.
Okay. Um, so you see that after like 3 days, Shairik would return to that bar. Um, there would be a meeting, lots of different men. No sign of the man named Oliver. Um, a different man, kind of speaking in this huddled group in this basement. Um, the man says, "The announcement's been made. It's just a matter of time for our response. And when the response is made," he looks at 4 different individuals. "Each of you will take your place, and we will begin to establish the new government. And we will run the city the way it's meant to be run. We will stop with this insane taxes We will stop with this insane enslavement of people of different nationalities, races, ethnicities. We'll have peace in this city. We'll have solace in this city. And a lot of the men go, yeah! We'll start with getting rid of the corruption. We'll start with getting rid of the ruthless people in charge. Good men, men like Oliver, will stand up and run this fucking town. We'll get rid of the fucking guards that take bribes. We'll get rid of the fucking Warren who puts people in prison just for the color of their fucking skin. Good men, only trustworthy men will run this city. And Shiree kind of cheers in the back of the room. You see him kind of just taking all of this in.
Oh.
And the crowd begins to disperse. Shiree walks back upstairs and heads home. Next day or so, in a couple hours, you see that he goes back to that restaurant that he works at, and he's working as if nothing's happened. Nothing suspicious or conspicuous occurs. He's just going about his life for the next 2 days.
All right. So whoa, wait a minute. So what is Bombera doing at this time?
Bombera's just been kind of doing market management during all that time.
Avot's going to send him a sending. Pretty much immediately after this disperses.
Mm-hmm.
I have great information on Men of Solace. Do you still wish to have it?
He replies, share what you know.
They are anti-Shalinsta, stole baby, trying to usurp Delvis, want to establish new government, stop taxes, stop enslavement. Small group. That's it.
No response.
Seeing his demeanor, is there any like, is he thinking about it, or is he just
Roll an insight check.
23? Man, I've rolled so well this.
As he receives that information, you can feel his head nod. His hands come together and kind of squeezes them together. He's deep in thought with the information. But then it seems like after it kind of comes in, he processes it for a moment. He drops it and continues on with his business of walking somewhere and then interacting with some woman about the prices of her leather wares. And then that's how the conversation starts. And then she says something like snarky. He reaches over the counter and grabs her by the shirt and pulls her. And then you hear him whisper to her, "And I heard you touched a kid." And her eyes kind of go wide. And she was like, He tried to steal from me. And he fucking slaps her in the face. Fucking say it again. He tried to fucking steal from me. Yeah. He throws her on the ground. He climbs over the counter and he starts beating the shit out of her.
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, I think that's about it for the 5 days. If you just want to resolve the rest of the books, just over PMs.
Yeah, I will.
You what I'm looking for.
Okay.
'Cause I know exactly what it is. It's Earthforge stuff.
Okay. So we'll do that over PMs.
Alright, wonderful.
All right, man.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this, like, little Gaze the Two Minds, because holy shit, the fucking reveals.
Yeah.
Oh my god.